Welcome back to another Shut Up, No One Cares, Get Back to Work podcast. I'm your host, Colin Stuckert, the Wild CEO. I'm obsessed with being the best version I can be and then helping you do the same. So today is a short show, 8 to 10 minutes. That's usually what we try to aim for. We talk about big ideas, first principles, evergreen concepts that are going to stand the test of time. And today's show is no exception. We're going to talk today about how to live a life on purpose. So there's two ways to live life, in my opinion. It's black or white. You can make decisions for yourself, and you can live your life on purpose because you made those decisions, you commit to them, and it's your decision. On the flip side, where I feel like a lot of people are, and at least for the bulk of their life, they are living life on accident. They are doing things because they're told to do the things, because there's expectations around doing things. Maybe they don't really want to do it, they half-ass it. This is living life on accident. This is not being cognizant of the choices in your life, how you're spending your time, what you're paying attention to, and it's you just responding to your environment versus taking a proactive action so that everything you do is considered. Everything you think is considered. The content you can consume is considered. It's on purpose. When you live life on purpose, it's because you have thought about the decisions, and I mean everything, health to every second of the day, what you're going to do. Having a life plan, having goals and a path, and at least some standards and some principles for how you want to live, that's living life on purpose. And I would say it's sad to say that I think a lot of people are maybe living a bit of their life on purpose. Maybe they have certain standards in their relationships, or maybe it's in their work, or maybe it's how they're raising their kids, or maybe it's even with just the fact that they decide they're going to be happy and like no matter what happens. I mean, all of these things, there's a million different variables here. There's a million different things to consider. Life is a very complex thing. Our lives are extremely complex, and we tend to make them complex. We tend to make them more complex than they have to be. But with everything in your life, if you can focus on some of the first principles of like, what do you believe? What's the foundational principles that you want to live by? You can then make decisions in everything you do, whether it's your relationships, whether it's your work. These first principles, this doing things on purpose, will be the foundation to which you build your entire life. There's not enough people that have principles in life. There's not enough people that have standards. It's usually absorbing things around them and adopting the principles or standards of other people or people they see in social media that they think sounds good or whatever. It's not very often where you have people that are willing to come out and say, this is what I believe, I'm sticking to it, and that's just the way it's going to be. Because a lot of times doing that can be difficult. It can be hard. It can be uncomfortable. It can be stressful. But that's what we need more of. We need people that are self-aware, that go inward, that figure out who they are and what they want, and then stick to that no matter what. No matter if money is an issue, no matter if their job's an issue, no matter if they're trying to please somebody. No, so many of the problems for humans come down to just not committing to something and saying, this is the line in the sand. I'm right here and I'm not changing my mind. And of course, you should change your mind at times, but we need more resoluteness than we do mind changing. I feel like we have a little bit too much wishy-washiness, and we have people that are afraid to commit to something, and they're afraid of upsetting people or offending people or letting people on social media know or whatever. We need more people that are willing to be who they are and be committed and be confident in that, and then make decisions, statements, whatever, based on that. And we don't have that enough. We have too much of this monkey see, monkey do. We have too much of trying to people please. There's just a lot of this. And I think it really leads people astray. I think people live lives for other people. They go to the schools, get a certain job, go into a certain profession for other people. They end up 10, 15, 20 years later realizing they don't like their life. They're not happy. And then that affects their kids and their relationships. And then they have a midlife crisis. And then, like this stuff happens often enough, and it's almost like built into the standard American dream of going in debt and buying things you can't afford to impress people you don't know or like, and fundamentally seeking external validation. This is a big idea, right? It's a big idea. It's a big concept. And I would say the call to action for today is just to find ways in which you can really hone in on the things you believe and how you're going to live your life based on those beliefs. We need more of that. We need more of a commitment to our principles. We need to, for some of us, we need to actually think about our principles, really identify them, maybe journal, write them down, whatever, and then remind ourselves of those principles on a daily basis, because we can slip out of those if we're not keeping them top of mind. So that's a big idea for today. Let's get to the rapid six, or the daily six, and then I'm going to let you go. Daily quote is, fools learn nothing from wise men, but wise men learn much from fools. That's awesome. That's an awesome quote. That is Joanne Casper. She was a Swiss theologian. What do they mean by this? Well, we can observe fools and people doing things, and we can try to learn by observing the mistakes that maybe they're making and learn from that so that we can avoid those mistakes as much as possible. Whereas the fool isn't paying attention to learn from the wise or learn from other people that aren't making those mistakes. They're very wrapped up in their own mistakes and not really learning from other people or things around them. And so I think that's what that quote means, but it's definitely one that provokes some thinking, doesn't it? The daily tip today is follow up. If you're trying to get anything done in life, and I've told my employees this for years, if you're trying to get anything done and it involves other people, it's going to be your responsibility to make sure they get it done. Meaning, if you send an email and you want a response, or you demand a response, or even they tell you they're going to respond by a certain time, it's up to you to follow up to make sure they respond. Because a lot of times people won't, and then they don't, and then things just fall by the wayside. And you know how life happens. Like we forget and other things come up and other people get other priorities. People don't have your priorities. They don't have your timeline. In some cases, they don't care at all. In some cases, they might have certain incentives to stick to your timeline if they're an employee or something. But even then, you're going to have to make sure that you keep people accountable. And the best way to do that is following up. Just send those emails or send those calls or texts or whatever and just say, any status here, any update here, question mark, whatever. Like be cordial with it. You're going to have to pester people. If you want to get things done and it involves other people, you will have to pester them. This is just like a first law of getting things done involving other people. Daily book recommendation, The Hobbit. So I read this way back in the day. It might even be something I want to reread again, as a kind of a detachment from today. I like reading fiction. I've read all the Lord of the Rings. They're great books. It's just a cool kind of escape. It's a cool world to get into when you really get into this fantasy worlds and you like visualize the setting and the people and the lands, and it's just really cool. I'm sure that's part of why Game of Thrones was so popular. Daily health, take more walks. Most people, if they got outside and they took a walk, 10, 15, 20 minutes, got outside nature, listened to the birds chirp, see the trees, hear the wind blowing and rustling, and getting sunlight at the same time on their skin and into their eyeballs, this would help mitigate so much of our health problems today. It is really that foundational. Vitamin D is one of the most common deficiencies. Most people stay indoors, right? It's what it is. You actually get a lot of vitamin D production through your eyes, so go outside without sunglasses and then get direct sun exposure and you'll get your vitamin D. Doing this daily is a game changer. During the winter, I never feel that great because I'm not getting outside as much. You will notice it. And people feel good in the summer and they feel good when things start warming up a little bit and the sun's coming out, and there's a reason for that. It's literally connected to our biology. So get outside, take a walk, get sun exposure, and you're going to be knocking off a few health birds with one stone. Daily cooking tip: buy an 8-inch cast iron pan and a 10-inch. These are the go-to pans I use every single day. The smaller, like 7 to 8 inch, maybe it's even 6. It's a really small one. That heats up real quick. I use it to reheat ground beef and maybe melt some cheese in there if I'm doing like my second meal for the day. And then the 10-inch is what I use to cook pretty much every meal that I cook. I mean, if it's a steak, if I'm browning some ground beef, a pound, I'll do it there. These things are something you will use literally every single day. And here's a tip. Most people do not clean cast iron pans the right way, or any pan for that matter. You cook food in the pan. It's hot, and then you have those little bits that are still stuck to the pan. Well, what most people do is let the pan cool down, then they go to clean up after they make their meal, for example, or after they eat, and then they have to scrub away at these bits that have cooled down and are now stuck to the bottom of the pan. A simple tip to fix this is to, right after you empty the food from your pan, I do this every single time, go to your sink, take the hot pan, pour in water to cover the bottom, let it sizzle and steam and do all that stuff. This is deglazing the pan. This is going to release those bits of food from sticking to the pan. And then what you want to do is you want to take a fish turner or a flathead spatula or anything like a scraper, and then you're going to gently scrape that hot water in that pan until all the pieces come undone and your pan is clean. With these cast iron pans, I do this after cooking, and usually I can get the whole pan clean with a little bit of water, a little bit of scraping, dump the water out, and then put the pan back on the burner because it's still warm. The residual heat from the burner will then evaporate the water on the pan as long as you drain most of it. And so you won't have to dry it or do anything. And then you come back into the kitchen after you eat and your cast iron pan is clean and perfect. It saves so much time, really. Okay, daily thoughts on money, then I'm going to let you go. Okay, this is something I've learned the hard way. Don't lend money to friends and family. Don't do it. What you'll find is somebody comes to you and maybe they need money. Maybe you're really helping them out to pay rent or whatever. Okay, so you give them the money. $1,000, $2,000, $500, $100, whatever it is. I've lent all numbers. You do this thing for this person and you think they're going to be grateful and they're going to be appreciative. And at the time they are. They probably think you're the bee's knees. You're the best person ever. Well, let a month go by and then ask for, either the whole payment like they said or your first payment. And without fail, you will get excuses. You will get people that will try to shame you, that will try to guilt you. And in a lot of cases, you can actually ruin relationships of friends or family when money becomes involved. You don't want to do it. Just make it a policy that you tell people, I don't lend money. I'm not a bank, and I'm not going to chase people down. I'm not a money lender, and I'm not a loan shark. I don't lend money, period. And if you really don't feel comfortable saying that, even though I think you should, just say you don't have it. That's a little bit more tricky because if people know you have money, maybe it's somebody close to you and you just came into some money and then everybody's going to ask you for money. They will call you out on that and be like, oh, of course you have money. And then they'll berate you and shame you and do all these other things. When it comes to money, humans are really bad. They're just really bad at it. Most people cannot handle money. They cannot handle the concepts around money. And they're really bad at, for whatever reason, repaying when you do something to help them out. So don't lend people money. Make it a policy. You will not only save time, it will save you so much mental anguish and stress and potential relationships. So don't do it. That's going to be it for today's show. Since it's a daily show, I'm going to see you in the next one. So make sure you like, subscribe, and do all those things so you can get the updates. Thanks for watching.